Hey everyone, Andy here in Warncliffe Woods, and I'm waiting for my brother so we can do some more trails and play around in the mud. And as you can see, I'm on this, the brand new Canyon Spectral 2.9. Hey everyone, Andy Sykes here, and today we're going to take a look at this, the 2021 Canyon Spectral CF 29 9.0. The CF for the carbon fiber frame, the 29 for the wheel size, and the 9.0 for this build, which is the top of the range RockShox build. We'll get onto that in a second. So Canyon, when developing this bike, they didn't want to just take the old 27.5 frame, tweak it a little bit and put bigger wheels in. They wanted to create a whole new frame specifically designed for trail riding with 29-inch wheels. Don't think of this as a replacement to the Strive. This is still a trail bike. The Strive is still their enduro machine. And although this has got more travel, 150 at the front and on the rear, it is still designed as a trail bike. Now, the carbon fiber frame, although it looks similar to the 27.5-inch bike, is completely different. For example, the geometry has changed, the carbon fiber tube, the profiles have changed, and also the layup of the bike has been changed. And that's been done to increase the stiffness while not really adding a lot of weight to the frame. So this is still a lightweight bike, but it's also a much stiffer and stronger bike. Canyon have tested this to category 4, and that's just one below full-on Red Bull ready. So category 5 is Red Bull Rampage and full-on downhill racing. Category 4 is full-on enduro racing. This is a trail bike that can really take a hammering, so you don't need to worry about any damage or problems with big jumps and stuff. This thing can handle it all, really. Okay, so some of the cool features on this compared to the 27.5 are the fact that, for starters, this has a shorter seat tube and increases the standover height. Canyon have managed to do that by changing the seat clamp from the wedge on the 27.5 to this clamp design. Yeah, it's a more traditional design, but it means a lower standover, it means less weight, and it means that they've been able to change the aesthetics of this tube. Another change on this frame compared to the 27.5 is the cable and hose routing. The 27.5-inch bike has a bolt-on plastic cover on the down tube, and all the cables and hoses cleverly go in there. It's a really smart way of partially integrating the cable and hose routing. Now, Canyon didn't want to do that to this bike. They spent a lot of time on those profiles to make sure that this was a stiff bike. They didn't want to start cutting shapes into it. So what they've done is they've given this bike fully guided internal cable and hose routing. And what that means is you pop a hose on the top, you thread it through, and it'll pop out the end. You don't need to fish around with it. You don't need to use cables and magnets and flashlights to get in there and see where your cables are. It makes it much easier and faster to look after this bike. It also means that the cables and the hoses can't rattle around inside the frame, so it makes this bike extremely quiet on the trail. Another change on this over the 27.5 is the fact that because this is a much lower frame and the tube profiles have been changed, you'll see that even if you're in a crash, the crown can't hit the down tube and your brake lever can't hit the top tube. So Canyon have been able to remove the knock block feature, again saving more weight. So a lot of cool, neat things on this that make it a new 29er specific bike. Let's have a look. It's going to be fun, this. So we've got 150mm travel on this bike. This is the RockShox equipped bike. There's also a Fox equipped bike with a 160mm fork. Let's continue. I was going to go the other way. So when Canyon were developing this bike, they didn't just take the old 27 frame and put 29-inch wheels on. They built something completely new. So they've rebuilt this bike from the ground up. It's got new geometry, more travel. It's got some new cool features like replaceable thread inserts for the pivots, so you don't need to worry about stripping threads when you're working on your bike. They played with the kinematics too, so it climbs even better than the 27 bike, but it's still poppy and playful too. So though it is a 150mm travel trail bike, it's not a full-on enduro bruiser like the Strive. It also doesn't have a shapeshifter like the Strive, but it does have a flip chip, knocking half a degree off the head angle. This bike is the CF 9.0, so it's RockShox equipped. It's got DT Swiss carbon wheels, SRAM X01 Eagle drivetrain. It's got G2 brakes on it too. Canyon have redeveloped the frame with new geometry, and the geometry is actually really progressive for a Canyon bike. It's already mentioned 77 degree seat tube angle, 65-degree head angle. This large bike has a reach of 485, which is really impressive for a Canyon trail bike. And it's only 10 millimeters less than the Commencal Meta AM29 Enduro race bike. So it's pretty bonkers, but it's super nice. It doesn't feel too long. Feels playful on the downs, comfy on the up, not too long, easy to hop around. Took it to Warncliffe the other day and it was such a good ride. So much fun on this bike. It's a fast and playful machine with nice poppy geometry and kinematics. I've been riding this bike for a while now, and if you have a listen to it, it's ultra quiet. There's no knocking, there's no banging. Cables aren't wobbling around inside the bike. You don't hear the chain, you just hear the tires gripping the ground. And that's partly because Canyon are using a new internal cable routing system, but it's also because it's got a lot of rubber armor around the chainstay, around the down tube, and even in the chain guide, there's rubber armor to make sure it's super quiet. And it is. Sounds so good. So this is exactly what the new Canyon is designed for, trail riding. And this stuff around Warncliffe is really good fun. It's a bit different to what I normally ride locally. It's a bit shorter and steeper, but super good fun. And the Canyon eats it all up in its stride. Not in its stride, but right. Really nice geometry on this bike. Really nice fast rolling. Thanks to the 29-inch wheels. And lightweight frame. Yeah, these trails are short but sweet. Now, I've already mentioned how quiet this bike is because of the internal cable routing, but Canyon have really worked hard to make sure that this is a super quiet bike. And again, working with the mechanics on the Enduro World Series, they've managed to create this really nice rubber armor in all the right places to prevent the chain from flapping around. And actually, we had a conversation with Canyon, and they mentioned that they wanted riders to hear the tires on the trail, not the chain rattling around. Okay, if we move on to the suspension, as already mentioned, 150 mil of travel front and rear, and we've got this three-phase suspension platform. And this is something that we've seen from Canyon for a couple of years now. We saw it on the 27.5-inch Spectral, we've seen it on the Torque, and we've seen it on the downhill frame as well, the Sender. Now, this three-phase suspension platform means that it's supple over small bumps. It has a really nice pedal platform, so it's not bobbing around, and then it ramps up. It's super progressive to make sure it's poppy and playful. Now, it has been changed a little bit for this 29er bike. The kinematics have been changed. This bike is still super progressive. In fact, it's so progressive, you could run a coil. It's not really designed to run a coil, but it is progressive enough that you could run a coil if you wanted. But they've improved the platform so now it climbs much better than previously, and it still retains that really nice poppy and playful nature. As I've already mentioned, it is a 2.9er. It has got the geometry of an enduro bike. It has the travel of an enduro bike, but it is a trail bike. So it's still got a poppy and playful feel on the trail, and it loves to change direction. It flicks in and out of corners really well, and that partly is down to that really nice stiff frame. You can really force the bike into a corner, kick up some hero dirt, and fly off down the trail. It's a super fun bike.